we have a distinguished panel of airline experts, which I am welcoming now, and that's truly global. I'm very pleased to see that. We are traveling on one plane from the Ukraine to Mexico to Greenland, and Greenland is Greenland in the North Sea, right? This is the right Greenland. I don't know if another one. I didn't even know Greenland has its own airline. That's great. And I really don't know where Wamos Air is, but it sounds Latin. So I'm sure it's somewhere south. Where is it, Raul? Where is Wamos Air?
It's in Spain. It's an airline based in Spain, Madrid.
Oh, great. So it's on the continent. Perfect. And we've got Mexico, we've got Greenland, and Ukraine. And to wrap up all of that, we have our friend Yulia. And Yulia Tomila is an airline specialist, and she's an ardent fan of Uzakrota. I can even see a brand there behind her. And I'd like to welcome Yulia to our Uzakrota family. I don't think you've been with us before. And why don't you just, just take over from me? It's going to be so much lovelier to listen to you than to me. I've been talking for 3 days, for heaven's sake. You should take over the rest of the day. Jokes aside, Yulia, the floor is yours. Please manage it well, and just try to make us know what's on the mind of airlines professionals these days.
Okay, thank you so much for introduction, and welcome to the Uzakrota Online Travel Summit. My name is Yulia, and I'm originally from Ukraine. I'm here to meet all of our honorable speakers from different countries, and we will discuss very important topic nowadays: how can aviation responsibly recover from this crisis? Let me introduce everybody again. First is, of course, from my native country, Yuri Miroshkinov, and board member. Hello. And also Fabricio Cojuc is from Mexico, Aeromar.
Hello.
Hello, we are welcome.
Happy to be here.
Yes, we hear you well. And Raul Wamos Air from Spain, commercial manager.
Hello.
And Jacob Nitter from Air Greenland. Yeah, Chief Executive Officer, as I remember. Everybody, welcome. We are very honored and privileged to be here with us. And let's start maybe just describing in general how it's airline strategy during pandemic. Starting from the beginning, when borders were closed, all flights were cancelled, and then we were preparing to recovery and accepting new normal standards. And what is nearest future perspective plan for airline, or your airline and your country? Maybe I can start with you, Yuri Vladimirovich.
Thank you. You can simply say Yuri to make it equal to all other colleagues. First of all, technically, can you hear me properly?
Yes, sure.
Yes.
Great. Actually, before the strategy appeared in March, when pandemic starts, there was a list of immediate action items which I believe every airline should address. And among those immediate items were procedures to close the routes, were care about passengers who some of them needs evacuation, some of them needs rebooking to return home earlier, change their plans. Some of them probably expected refunds from the airlines. Fleet grounding procedures, technical maintenance procedures, and obviously preempting the difficult period, cash freeze. So that was a sort of urgent actions before somebody would start thinking about, or actually was starting thinking about strategy. Talking about strategy in that moment or in that initial period, of course, cargo transportations have been an agenda. Easy to say, not always easy to do, because most airlines like UAE, for example, had passenger aircraft, so they need to be readapted, certain certification processes done in order to transport cargo safely and in good order. But that was very important item for strategy, item for the strategy for the generation of cash to help airlines survive through the total ban and lockdown of passenger transportation. Cost. The rule of cost is if you don't cut costs, they are growing. But I think in the current situation, and that become quite evident in spring, simply cutting the cost was not enough. And basically, I would say the important element of the strategy is cost destruction. Rude, brutal, ruthless destruction of costs. Otherwise, you would not survive. And cash is king always, and cash is king in this difficult period. So the third cornerstone of the strategy is cash conservation, preservation, freeze, whatever you can do with cash to keep it for as long as possible, because basically airlines have been deprived from their usual source of cash, various segments of sales of their traditional transportations. That's it. Immediate, urgent action items in the beginning, and 3 cornerstones then as a development of the strategy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Maybe we can also ask Fabricio, from you are so far from us, how's going in your country, what is happening there, and what is your action as the airline?
Thank you, Yulia. Well, in addition to what Yuri mentioned about cash preservation and cash being king, of course, I think we were in a particular situation because, well, first of all, I'm a network planner by trade. So immediately as we started to see the effects of the pandemic in other latitudes, we started developing contingency plans. Personally, I had the benefit to go through 9/11 and H1N1 in Mexico. So we kind of had some sensitivity to what the effects might be. And so we had like a dozen contingency plans ready, let's say by the middle part of March. And actually the pandemic started to hit in Mexico around the 21st, 22nd. That's when we really saw the bookings start to evaporate. And so we put into effect our contingency plans. Mexico never actually closed its borders. We are one of the few countries that has, I think, been very resilient in terms of demand. Some of you guys who might have seen some of IATA's statistics show that Mexico is a country that has suffered the least in Latin America. And for instance, the Mexico to US transborder market is by far today the largest in the world, also because the US has not closed its borders by air to Mexico. So I think we have suffered clearly. We have had some very significant downturn in bookings and in revenues, but I don't think to the extent that you guys in Europe and other parts of the world have seen. So our operation never actually stopped. And for us at Aeromar, being an ATR operator, we had the benefit of the smaller gauge. So when you saw the other guys flying A321s or 737s, even Embraer 190s start to park those planes, we were able to continue. Albeit, of course, at a smaller pace, but we kept going where others had to withdraw. So that actually, for us, we turned that into an advantage. And still today, 9 months or 8 months after all this started, we have been able to, let's say, advance in certain markets where others have to withdraw. So to us, airline strategy is really about adaptation, anticipating as much as possible, doing a lot of trial and error, but in a laboratory setting where you actually doing things real time and shifting our planning horizon from 6 months, I would say, down to half a day or so.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. We are lucky, really, that you didn't close borders. And what is happening in Europe? Maybe you can say us from Air Greenland, Jacob. Oh, sorry, we didn't hear you. unfortunately. You're muted.
Is the connection okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, it's
Okay,
fine.
the cable was frozen. I'm sorry. Yeah, well, Greenland has been very different from Mexico, I guess, because we actually saw the same picture around the 21st, 22nd of March. The bookings were pretty stable. And we were looking at this and thinking, we're an island, we're going to be okay. People are still going to be needing to travel. A lot of business people travel all the time back and forth, and it's the only way of travel. So we kind of started out thinking this is going to be okay. And then the government shut down everything. They put in a complete ban. So we weren't allowed to fly at all. So we really quickly went from one scenario to the other, and then the government found out that, well, this country cannot function without an airline. So they of course wanted to set up emergency routes. The biggest problem is that when actually it would have been better for us to just completely shut down the whole operation instead of keeping everything going and just flying on very few routes with no passengers to serve the government. So we were actually put in a bad position. So we had to really decrease our capacity. We had to lay off a lot of people. We just from the beginning said it's better to cut deep and do it fast, and then we can always roll back if we need to. So it was, we saw some airlines, they just parked everything, shut everything down, and that would have been a better position for us. But being government owned, we weren't quite in a position to do that. And on the other hand, we have some certain business areas that aren't affected, like search and rescue operations. And it was actually very, very difficult to keep the other parts of the business going because we couldn't get crews in and out. There were restrictions on licensing, all kinds of different issues. So like it was already mentioned, of course, securing cash positions, all of that, yes. But we also had a very big logistical challenge in just keeping the emergency routes going and the emergency services. So a lot of the strategy actually went into working with the authorities. How can we get pilots back and forth? How can we get technicians back and forth to the menu? We have about 15 different remote stations scattered around Greenland. So a big part of the strategy has actually been into just keeping the operation going.
Okay, thank you so much. Perfect. And what is about Spain? Spain is so holiday country, and I think closing border, and it was a very hard situation for Spain, and of course for all airlines that were expecting many tourists. Can you please share us your situation?
Of course. First of all, I want to thank you for inviting me to this event. Actually, everything is amazing. The platform and everything is going really well and interesting. So thank you. And yes, what I want to point out is like that Wamos Air is not that. I would say normal airline. We have a fleet, and we do scheduled flights, but mainly our focus is put on the ACMI and charter flights. So this is a bit atypical from the common or only scheduled airlines. Actually, we have flown in the past from on behalf of some of the airlines we have today here for Air Greenland or Ukrainian International Airlines in the past. So what we do is to lease our aircraft to another existing airlines or group of people needing to travel. So for us, the starting of pandemic was, as I said, a bit atypical because we suffer an increase of demand because of repatriation flights. Most of the airlines, they as Jacob said, they had suffered a decrease of business volume in regards of fleet number and operations number. For us, was almost the opposite. We had a peak of demand for those seasons because we are operating Boeing 747, which can carry up to 475 passengers, and this is a very specific aircraft and very useful in terms of repatriation, because you take almost 500 passengers at once. Logistically is something really good. So we did a lot of this repatriation flight. We also suffered these problems Jacob said about the where to position crews, how to do it, what are the procedures to get into. And at the very beginning was a bit unpredictable and unknown how to do these kind of things. So we actually made the first flight to Wuhan to take the Britons back to UK in collaboration with the UK government. So for us was like the big thing. We were all the teams focused on this flight, and since that flight that was like thrilling and challenging, that was in BBC and all media, we have established a plan and procedure for these pandemic flights. Preparing for recovery for us, I mean, we are, as all of us, we are trying to adapt to what is coming. I mean, we do not know, and would be a really, it's really hard to understand and to foresee what is going to happen in the next 3 or 4 months. So we basically have to listen to the market and see what is needed and adapt ourselves. Doing cargo flights, of course, said also civil aviation have been really flexible, helping us to carry cargo in passenger flights, in passenger aircraft. And yes, that's what it is. And as Yuri said, we are all of us, we are looking to conserve our cash flow, which is the main thing now. I think is the main problem all the carriers have. Even the legacies you read in newspaper, they need money from the governments and so on. So we did our homework back in March, taking as much flight as we could, just to try to keep this strategy of keeping our cash flowing, and that's it. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Actually, we had also discussed my next question a little bit about in terms of revenue management. We are now in so unpredictable times, and how now to forecast the demand, because we don't know what will happen next in our destination country, and how is airline managing their routes and internal management now. It's very interesting. I think it was never experienced before, because no any system can show this situation. Can you please share your idea, Yuri?
Yes, sure. Thank you very much. You know, to big surprise, revenue management still exists, and automation, various automated systems, they are more or less useless. I think revenue managers, the people can only use now the controls, the tools, the instruments, rather than rely on the artificial intellectual abilities, capabilities of the systems. It's like descending the aircraft in a turbulent environment on a foggy runway, and without ability to use autopilot instruments and everything else, doing this visually. That's the role and difficulty and function of revenue managers now. Manual process, it includes, of course, monitoring just the news, monitoring media, reviewing restrictions, which unfortunately are quite chaotic and quite random thanks to the governments globally. They are sometimes doing like in panic, sometimes in preempting problems, but definitely creating a lot of difficulties, first of all, for people, and then for those business entities who are in the business of transporting these people. Searching for opportunities on the markets, still some sort of events happening, some sort of ad hoc border openings are happening. Some countries are quite open, like in case of Ukraine would be Turkey and Egypt. This creates the opportunities, and that manual process is run by revenue managers, and this is about current situation. I think I will give floor to my colleagues, and then if necessary, we can speculate a little bit about the future of revenue management, because there are changes there to happen as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you too. And also, we have a question: how do you think what will demand return with the same strength that it was before after these decreases? And what do you think will be the first recovery, for business travel or for leisure? Can you please share your ideas, Fabricio?
Yes, thank you very much, Yulia. Well, clearly we have seen empirically that leisure and VFR has significantly outpaced business. And I can speak for my experience here in Mexico, but we have very important resorts like Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, Los Cabos, which have drawn a lot of demand, more so since the summer. We thought that the traditional seasonality would be thrown out the window. But no, actually people decided to travel, and these beach markets picked up significant demand. Also seeing some connectivity, even though the big disruption took place between, interline agreements, connectivity, hub and spoke, all of that was severely disrupted. We still saw an interesting influx, specifically from the US, of connecting passengers. So the business sector has been completely decimated. I would say probably around 80% demand decrease year over year in the business sector, and around 35 to 40% decrease in the leisure. And all in all, that gives you an average of about minus 50, minus 55%. Clearly, and just to complement what Yuri was saying, our booking patterns were dramatically altered. The booking curves, we had traditionally didn't mean anything at all after the pandemic started to hit. The tsunami came to us, let's say. We saw a big spike in no-shows, for instance, going from 7% no-show to 70% no-show in a period of 10 days. So clearly you had to reinvent some of the way you work, adapt to the new reality, flexibilize, the rules, fair rules, be much more empathic towards the passenger, allowing changes, to rebook as many times as they would want. We didn't issue basically any vouchers. We were trying to be as collaborative with the passengers as possible. But again, we're a small operation. We only have 10 ATRs. So probably it was easier for us to adapt than much larger carriers to that effect. So just to recap, I see leisure and VFR coming back very strongly. And we anticipate to be back at pre-COVID levels no later than the summer here in Mexico, which I think is fantastic news. On the other hand, business will take at least a good couple of years, we believe.
Okay, thank you so much. Also, maybe we can continue with Jacob. Then there is, I'm not sure this question is very important for you, but it is very important for many European airlines. Like some carriers receive government support, and it is very hard to compete now with carriers who received this support and who didn't. How it is going in Europe now, maybe in Greenland also, you face with this situation? Jacob?
Yeah, the connection is a little bit bad, but yeah, I'll agree with Fabricio. I think when we're talking about the leisure demand, it will come back very strong. Greenland has been closed. We are one of the big pillars of future growth, and Greenland is based on tourism and leisure travel. And the whole tourism industry here has been shattered because of the travel restrictions. So we're basically seeing, at the moment, leisure demand is almost zero this year. So a total collapse. But we see a lot of interest, and we see a lot of people in Europe who have, they have saved their travel money. They want to travel. We get a lot of activity at the travel agency. People are, instead of canceling the trips, they're just extending, and they keep calling and say, when can we go? When can we go? So we're just waiting for the government restrictions to ease, and then I expect that leisure demand will come back just as strong or even stronger as pre-COVID. Right now, people are going where they can, so there's going to be a fight to attract people to come to your place, of course. So leisure is just a matter of restrictions being lifted. When we're talking business travel, I agree as well with Fabricio that it's going to take some time. We are seeing a lot of both large corporations, governments, and other who have put in place very strict travel policies, and some of them, of course, have to do with health and safety, keeping your employees safe, and that's why there are travel bans in place. But some of it has also got to do with cost cutting, of course, because of this online meeting trend that's going on. And I think that we as an industry will have to fight a little bit with the new trend of online meetings, because in the short term, yes, you can get more productivity and you can probably save on the travel accounts, but I believe that the physical meetings are still by far the best. That's where you get the best deals. That's where you get the best relations going. But I think that we will see. It will take a little bit of time before corporations will have to realize that you can't do everything online. That's for sure. I mean, just the fact that it would be lovely to share a beer after this session with you guys. We can't do that, so we just have to drink our coffee instead. I think the world will realize that the airline industry is actually what brings collaboration. That's what brings peace, and that's what brings innovation, actually bringing people together. So business travel is going to be a little bit longer. Sorry, that was a long answer, but yeah.
Thank you very much. Just for a question about fair competition, I think maybe it's better to refer to Yuri, because we are now here in Ukraine very much faced with the situation that some competitors from European countries, they have very huge support, like Aeromar, France, Guns, everybody are very supported. How to compete in this environment? For low-cost carriers, for example.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the question about fair competition was never easy, but I think in these days this is a question without interesting answer at all. You are absolutely right that some carriers received support subsidies, some of them not. In Ukraine, the Ukrainian carriers got nothing from their government, unfortunately, regrettably. Are we unique or not? I'm not sure. You mentioned low-cost carriers. I think they also didn't receive any support, while some flag carriers in most of the European countries and in the rest of the world, they did receive significant amount. But every carrier is in different market situation. And for example, low-cost carriers, which did not receive any state aid and support, but their markets are much less vulnerable to the COVID because they are operating point to point. European low costs are operating within Europe, where the borders are for the moment quite open for intra-European traffic. So yes, they suffer. I would not even think that they are lucky guys. No, we all suffer, but maybe they suffer a little bit less than global network flag carriers whose business model is built on the global transportations between the continents and is extremely badly affected by that random border closures and various pandemic restrictions, etc., etc. And the scale of damage is different, scale of support is different. So my conclusion is there is no fair competition. It was never, and it will not be after pandemic. And every business, every carrier should find its own way how to survive. And state aid is only one of the elements. And there are other solutions and there are other ways how you could survive. But competition will be definitely tough. It will not become easier. And that would be good for customers, good for passengers, because they probably will continue enjoying low prices from various carriers. And for instance, very flexible rules and various waivers of traditional restrictions which airline normally put on their ticket prices.
Okay, thank you so much for your reply. And maybe we can move to a pleasant moment of this part crisis. Maybe like as every crisis have new opportunities. How do you see now new opportunities for airlines? Maybe discovering new markets, new routes. We are now investigating new countries that we never heard before, and it's really, I think, fabulous time to have new routes for airlines. Can you please share your ideas in this case, Raul?
Yes. First of all, I want to say that I do agree with Yuri and Jacob before comments, and also Fabricio. Basically, all what they said is what we all think in the market, that the market will recover, but the problem is when, and you have to stand still till this happens, no? And yes, this regarding the new markets or destination for us, for example, we are now. We took 4 of our aircrafts and turning them into freighters version, passenger to freighter, just to adapt ourselves to this demand. So we never thought we will be flying daily to Asia, and we are doing it. So at the end, for us is more simple than that. We just have to listen to the market to see what they need and try our best to fulfill their needs, basically. And honestly, it's a bit unpredictable what is going to happen after 6 months. Seems that now cargo is in peak moment with all these Christmas gifts and so on, and also with PPEs and everything. And if vaccine now gets developed and it seems that this will last at least till February, March, but everything can stop in a minute. At the end, passengers will travel, but I think, in my personal opinion, the problem is the confidence. There's no clear protocol globally adapted by everyone. Now, for example, I have to travel to Switzerland to see my family, and I have to check on the Swiss Confederation network to what is needed to travel to Switzerland. Then I have to check back in Spain. So this is very difficult for the airlines. We are trying to adapt to something which is constantly moving. List of countries at high risk affected, changing every single week. Plus, each country needs a PCR or not, or quarantine. So, I mean, we did it in the past. When we told the passengers to put all their liquids in the bag, was annoying, but was a global decision, and this was adapted by travelers. Now we have, each one is fighting on their own, and it's very difficult to transmit the passenger the confidence to fly when there is no clear protocol. So I think passengers will travel the same, maybe new destinations, but the key of the recovery is to have a clear protocol for them, to explain them if you're going to travel, you need a PCR, you need a vaccination, or whatever is needed globally. Not in this special case, you are traveling from this point to this point, you have to do this, but if you're traveling from the other side, you have to do a different protocol. So for me, in my opinion, new markets, new destinations will happen as the same as we had before, but provided that we have a clear protocol to travel. That's it.
Okay, thank you so much. And what's your opinion? What will be the key factor in the future for passengers to choose the airline? It will be price, like very low tickets for low cost, or it's safety, and they will choose airlines who will provide the best service on this case. What do you think about it, Jakob?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's a very interesting question. But I think we have learned over the last many years in this industry that in the end, there's one thing that counts for, especially when we talk volumes, and that's the price. Aviation has a very good and strong safety record, and I think today safety is a given. People trust the authorities, and they just expect that every airline is safe, basically. So it comes down to price in the end. But I think in the short term, there will be an element of feeling safe when you travel. Of course, booking with confidence. Yuri, you talked about it, and Fabricio as well, that when there's uncertainty, passengers need to feel that the airline will take care of them in terms of reimbursement or repatriation or whatever in the short term. But once this pandemic is gone, we'll be back into the old game of who can keep the lowest cost for sure. And so price will definitely be the main driver, I think, as usual. When the prices are perceived as being even or close to even, then of course we can talk product and flexibility and all the other things. Connectivity will come back, but I think one thing that is different now is that the travelers' mindsets have been reset. The whole marketplace has been reset. So if you could, there is a chance to grab a different piece of the cake, if I can put it that way. So I think we'll see. It will be very interesting to see how the different airlines will fight for the market when the pandemic is over. And of course, because a lot of passengers right now, I mean, it's still possible to travel, but it's just much more difficult. So passengers who have been loyal to one airline may have been out seeking other airlines and tried out different airlines. So I think the mindset with the traveling public has been reset, and that's going to be interesting to see how that's going to be captured by the airlines on the backside of the pandemic. But definitely price is my main focus.
Yes.
If I may, yes, thank you. Jakob, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Price is main issue, a major factor for the passengers, and safety is assumed by default as granted in case of airline industry. But when listening to you, I think taking care about passengers normally was considered like taking care during the flight, post-flight, and in case of disruptions. I believe the post-pandemic situation will create certain new issues for passengers, new obstacles and difficulties, like a sort of medical passport, PCR, whatever tests, references, insurances. And that opens the issue of pre-flight care about passengers. And those airlines and entities who would provide a better care, who would be more effective in simplifying all these troubles for passengers, they may win. And they may even charge premium price, provided they are giving a key turn solution for the passenger to travel. And that's interesting issue, I believe, and opportunity not only for the airlines itself, but also for the travel industry, for travel agencies, for whatever business entities, to provide pre-travel, pre-flight care and facilitation solutions for the future passengers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe you want to add something. You're welcome. No?
I would like to add something,
yes,
if I may. I think it's important also to take into account the whole, let's say, customer experience journey, which involves the airports. The airports have to be in sync with the airlines. And so you may take the best care and the best precautions that you control, but if the airport is really, and I hate to use the word, but irresponsible, then it throws everything out the window. So there needs to be an alignment, right? And Raul hit it right in the head when he said that there needs to be a standardization of protocols so that the whole service chain is aligned, and the passenger, from the moment they set foot in the airport and they exit with their luggage and they go home, they feel that they've been through a, let's say, safe travel experience. Because if that experience is consistent all along, then no matter what you do as an individual entity, you will not be able to fulfill the customer's expectation. So I think it's important to look at not only the airline per se, but everything surrounding the customer experience.
Thank you. And also we have a very interesting question. How do you think if there's more opportunities for creating a new airlines and not to be affected for this crisis for now, compared to all other airlines who already affected by this crisis? Is it a right time to create a new airline, or it's better to continue as we are? Can we, maybe somebody wants to answer these questions? Maybe Raul, what do you want to say?
It's okay. To be honest, it's a problem that Yuri and Fabricio and Jacob, we were talking about the cash. I mean, starting a new airline, you require a lot of cash. So to risk this for a situation like this where demand is low is quite risky. So I do not think there would be more opportunity now in this very moment to create a new airline. However, related to the question before, you were talking about the investments of some governments to the carriers. I think this is also related. There could be, I think, I wouldn't say better or worse, but more creative ways of doing this. For example, if governments they help the airports to not charge the airlines for parking, that would be a good solution and equal for everybody. Not putting money in a company non-profitable, or for example, decreasing the VAT in fuel, or measures that will take for all the airlines, that will make these new airlines to happen, because they have a better scenario to invest the money. But honestly, personal opinion, short question, I do not think now is the moment to create a new airline, or there would be more opportunities for the non-existent airline than the ones already operating.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, sure.
Thank you. If I may, combining a little bit your previous question and this one. Previous was about new opportunities, which definitely exist, and definitely the post-pandemic environment opens new business opportunities for the airlines. If we consider airline in a very wide term, like not only passenger transportation, but whatever modes of transporting commercial items and flying for money. So new models are possible, and new modes and new routes and new slots in the slot conjunct airports. So there are plenty of various windows of opportunities. If we return a little bit to the cargo, the boom, if I may use this word, the boom of cargo transportations in spring was partially caused by the fact that there was plenty cargo capacity on the market in the bellies of passenger aircraft. And as soon as these passenger flights and frequencies have been stopped and grounded, it appeared huge deficit of the cargo capacities, which created that boom, and it coincided with the demand on the transportation of masks, disinfectants, and various goods and items demanded in the pandemic period. But now, talking about vaccines, which should be transported relatively quickly in huge amount, in a very difficult conditions with that minus 70 degrees Celsius boxes and whatever, that will definitely create new opportunities for some airlines, which probably would like to be specialized on this vaccine transportation. B, for the usual airlines, for those who are in passenger business, that could be anticipated another boom in the freighter transportation, because big freighter carriers will now concentrate their capacities on transportation of the vaccines between continents and countries. And again, will be a sort of shortage of the freighter capacity for normal freight, which still exists. So it's another opportunity for airlines to consider. And regarding new carriers, the window of opportunity exists. Cash is one of the key solutions. If cash is available for the people who would like to create new airline, they may try. But then it's a puzzle of issues and aspects, like new slots and routes which probably become available because of somebody's went bankrupt or somebody lost interest in the route. So there are the opportunities. Window will be short. When everyone will get back to operation of normal, that window will be closed. For the moment, it exists, I think. Subject to conditions.
Just a quick note. You're right, Yuri. I was focused in the passenger side, but it's certainly that there's a cargo demand, and plus there's also something good of this, that leasings now are much cheaper. So it's true that there's opportunity, but I was only referring to passenger. But it's true that this window exists, and also, as you said before, it could be great creating a travel agency or something like this that solve all these problems of what I need to travel in here. So it's true that it's a good field for opportunities. I was only referring to passenger, traditional passenger airline. That's all.
Well, we're debating, and in this debate, we generate some ideas for somebody who is listening to us now.
And I think if I may add, a very important element is that, unfortunately, there's been a lot of furloughs and layoffs. So you have a great talent pool available. You know, there used to be scarcity of pilots. Now there's plenty of pilots available. You know, mechanics, management. So you have all the right ingredients in place. So if you can find the cash and you can find, you know, the will to invest, I'm sure there's plenty of opportunities out there. No doubt.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
My light is turning off here. Yeah, and I'm sitting too still. There we go. Yeah, and we're seeing actually. I mean, we saw one example in Denmark of Jet Time, ACMI operator. You know, they just basically decided to shut down the operation. They went actually bankrupt, but they have started up again on new leasing deals. You know, power by the hour deals, and at a different cost base. So I mean, you can probably there's the complete new startup. But there's also, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what will happen with Norwegian. You know, if they're going to make it or not. Maybe not. If not, someone will definitely pick up some of that operation. You know, so there's going to be the completely new startup, and then there's just going to be the reconstruction of current operators. And like you all said, cheap assets in the market right now. Lots of talent pool, open routes, open slots. So for the right people, it will be a good time to do this. But it's like with the stock market, you know, the higher the potential, the higher the risk. For the wrong people, it will be a very bad time to start up an airline.
Great, thank you so much for so nice information. And maybe you want to ask each other any questions, because it's really a rare situation that we can face from different countries and to talk about. Maybe you have any questions, no? No?
No,
Okay.
no questions.
Okay, just for me to continue, also I have many interesting questions, but maybe it's, you can say us what is new services now provided by airlines? Yes, flying air services is the first one, but also we are seeing that now new services like ancillaries are providing for airlines, and also they're proposing to buy second seats, not to be surrounded by any other passengers. Somebody is proposing laying on the flight. So it's what is our new services now?
Well, I can take a shot at that, Julia. In our case, first of all, we have the low-cost carriers to thank for educating the traveling public about ancillaries. You know, traditionally we have this division between legacies or traditional and new entrants and new generation airlines, and so because the LCCs have been much more aggressive in Mexico in reinstating flights and being even more aggressive than in the past in terms of leveraging their ancillary portfolio, it has exposed a lot of the traveling public to the ancillaries. So we are a more, let's say, or used to be a more conservative airline in that regard. We describe ourselves as full service, offering all the amenities, the extra bag, etc., as a key value proposition differentiator. But now clearly we have been able to piggyback on the ancillary train, let's say, because now everybody has been exposed. Everybody, they don't like it, but they kind of understand that it's parts of the business now. And so we've been able to increase our ancillary revenues quite significantly over the past 6 months. And we've been, pleasantly surprised at the amount of revenue we're getting that we used to leave on the table. So that clearly for us has been a big plus. And the other one I would say is there's an appetite for, countries that have lost service or that have lost a significant amount of business to come to us asking about, hey, could you, lease us or fly a wet lease for us, some of your ATRs, because now, we used to fly 737s or A320s and we don't see the demand. And actually, we've been able to start service to Cuba, for example, from Cancun, where you used to see multiple daily, A320, 737s. Now, the ideal airplane for this type of market is the ATR. So never in our wildest dreams, a year ago, would we have thought that we would be flying from Cancun to Cuba, but we're doing that exactly today. So again, you need to be very, flexible, responsive, listen to the market, adapt, and take some risk, of course. But I think, to your question, it's on a country-by-country basis. Each country is different. In our case, we receive basically zero support from the government. So we need to go out and, fend for ourselves and see what works and what doesn't, and be just extremely quick and agile to whatever opportunities out there.
Okay, thank you so much. We have just a few minutes left for our conversation. I want to thank all of you for joining this summit, and I hope you enjoyed talking, and I think it's very useful for all the audience who are listening us, and they get a lot of information actually, and these questions were very interested for so many people, and maybe Alex, we are ready, and we are thank you that you're participating.
Yes, indeed so. Дякую, Юлія, дуже дякую. Ви зробили таку чудову роботу на останню хвилину. Ми хочемо побачити вас знову в Uzakrota наступного року.
Дуже дякую. Нам дуже приємно.
Hey, so lovely to work with you. It's great, gentlemen. I have to compliment you. You're in such a difficult situation, and you are projecting really professionalism and also optimism and addressing the issues as they should be addressed. So really hoping for each one of you, for each airline, that things go well, that things go better. And I have also to say, the ideas of the airline industry, keep it going. Cargo has been a great issue. We should have had actually a cargo panel, because also we can see more and more that cargo is becoming an issue, not even of B2B, but also for the consumers. When we look at the amounts of online shopping going on, I think that has hugely influenced also the airline industry and everything. It is great to be with you. I just wanted to ask, Jacob, is it so cold in Greenland?
Yeah, it is actually. It's winter here now. It's not too bad. It's minus 15 degrees and a bit of snow, a bit of wind.
Okay, that was just a personal question. How many people live in Greenland permanently?
That's a really good question, because Greenland, Air Greenland is actually considered the biggest airline in the world, because we're the only airline in the world that transport our own population 8 times in the year. We have 56,000 people in Greenland.
I was going to say the statistics are always a questionable source depending on what the scale of comparison is. But that's great to hear. It's with Spitsbergen, one of the places that I'm longing to visit. So that will definitely be on my travel list. And all the other places I have visited, but none of you is operating in an easy market. All the markets are competitive and very, very crowded and difficult to survive. So we hope that everything will be back to normal, and that we will be hearing a lot more from you. And you were mentioning the many unemployed people. It's amazing, really, how many people now from the airline industry have been laid off. What is I'm just asking as an amateur, maybe just the last question for one of you, whoever wants to answer. What's going to happen with these people when things get back to normal? And we hope that it will, we know it will. But how is that going to go then? Are they all going to be called back? Would they then again want to be working there? How is that going to work? I'm always wondering about that.
If I may.
Sure.
Thank you for question, Alex. It's socially very important. It's very sensitive. I believe that airlines shall use the opportunity of this crisis to become even more effective than they used to be before crisis. So effectiveness means sometimes productivity. And yes, unfortunately, a lot of people are laid down. When things will be back to normal, some of them will be called back. But basically, the task of the airline management now is to achieve a better productivity. So maybe not all, unfortunately for them, unfortunately for those who are on the streets now, I believe not all of them will be called back. But some of them, half, majority, I don't know what sort of proportion, they definitely will find their place back again in the industry. And the biggest question is when it will happen, when markets and industry will come back to the levels of pre-COVID, pre-crisis.
Well, let's hope for the best. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Again, thank you, Yulia, for the great moderation, and you've done very well. And we look forward to seeing more of you in the next coming months, and certainly at Uzakrota next year. I hope we will all be able to meet live in Istanbul next year. I know for none of you it will be a problem to get there, since you're in the airline. Hop on one of your flights and be there, and we will all meet again there. So thank you very much, and we will just be back in a few minutes with the next and last panel of the day. Stay tuned. This is Uzakrota Travel Summit Online version 2020 live. Just a few minutes and the next panel will start. Thank you very much. Wherever you are, have a lovely evening and end of the day. Bye-bye.
Adios.
Adios. Bye-bye.